Well, here we go again, starting on the Toyota project, getting ready to start the rebuild of the 3VZE motor V6 in the Toyota. And this is what we're starting off with. Painted that high temp orange. Got it back from the machine shop some time ago, and it's been sitting in my garage. I kept it sprayed with WD-40. And I've flattened all the surfaces and cleaned it. But the only downside is what I got to do next is I got to actually clean the whole entire block, which is really simple. Basically just some soap and water. Wash it down, get all the oil and machining stuff off of it, like if there's any excess metal anywhere or any of that stuff. And then once I do that, which all I'm going to do is use some Dawn and some water and clean it up, and then to file anything I need to file, like any of the surfaces right here, get all that stuff smooth, and then clean all the metal shavings and everything off of it. And then once I let it do that, I get the air line, blow it out, blow it down, and re-WD-40 it and get it ready to start assembly. And basically all I'm going to do for assembly for today is right now, is step by step, is I'm going to put the crank in and the new bearings and all that stuff, and I'll try to show you all that. And once you get it all nice and clean and washed down, clean all your surfaces, clean all those off, make sure you ain't got no dirt or debris anywhere. The block will look good, and just be really careful when you cleaning the cylinder walls or go near the edges of the steel, because they can be sharp and they can cut you wide open. So just be careful and take your time. All I did, like I said, use soap and water, hot water. Make sure you use hot water so it'll help penetrate the dirt and grease and everything else that's on your block. Machine shop does that when they first tear down the motor, but they told me they didn't redo it after they did all the machine work. So that's why I'm having to do it this way. And once all the surfaces are clean, blow them off, and then spray it back down with WD-40, and then just wait for this. Alright, engine block, crank, and main cap all cleaned up. Surfaces all cleaned. Alright, basically I get ready for reassembly. Basically the only thing I'm using is, also you got to chase the threads. Everything that you're getting ready to do to make sure there's nothing down in there, so that way you get the right torque and you have no blockage or any of that stuff. So all I'm going to use on a drill, the brass bristle brush. I've already blew them out when I washed it down, but just better safe than sorry. Basically what we're going to use is a torque wrench. Any type of man you want for the specific vehicle. And then I got my mains right here. I got those from D&J Engineering. That's what my machine shop uses. They said they haven't had any problems with them since. So basically, assembly lube. So that way, if the engine's going to sit for any teeth of time, or just to make sure it has quick lubrication for startup, just chase the threads so that way they're nice and clean. And then you won't have to worry about any issues with that. Just a helpful hint when you're putting it all together, the main caps are different from the bottom to the top. Basically from the block side to the main cap side. On the block side, they're smaller pieces right here. They slide into the cap. And also too, you can distinguish them because these got 3 holes. But just to let you know, just in case you're going through it and just not paying attention, that's something to pay attention to. Because these, on the main cap side, are definitely a lot bigger. So that way you don't mess the caps up, by chance doing it after the fact going, oh shit, But just wanted to let y'all know that. And you can tell difference in size. This one's fatter than all the other ones. So on and so forth. Once you have the main caps in, on the block side, just check fitment, make sure everything's nice and tight. They are keyed to the position they go in. Since if you can tell, see how this one's on the left side and the rest of them are on the right side? Because these three are smaller than that one, in the front main. So that will help you identify where they go. And the same thing for these is going to be keyed different. Because these three are the same and that one's bigger. And then once you get those in there, get some gloves on, because this assembly loom is really thick. So put some gloves on, and then a light coat. Do it as you wish. You can use oil or whatever you want. It's on you what you will use. You don't, so that's on your own discretion. But I'm just using this Lucas stuff because what I've researched. It said it was good stuff for startups. So that's what I'm going to use. And then once you get both of the caps on the block and on the main, drop the crank in. Okay. Got all the bearings in there, and also make sure you put the thrust washers in there. If you can see them down there, they do the end play. Make sure you get those down in there. And the crank's all lubed up. And this is a good, better look at the thrust washers. See them right here? It doesn't tell you in the manual which way these grooves go, but my common sense basically said it'd be better to have them like that, so it puts the oil towards the crank, so it keeps it lubricated, because it does ride against that side right there and on this side. And also too, these have grooves to lock it in, and the other ones on the block do not have grooves, but they're just held in once the stop gets made it on there. Just be careful when you put the main cap girdle on top, because these will fall off. You could probably use the assembly lube in between that just to kind of give it a little suction, so when you put it on there, it'll hold it all together. And you got my bolts cleaned up, and then the next step, get it on there. And once I get the girdle on top, I'm going to lightly put the bolts in there and then rotate it around to make sure everything spins freely, no binding, no nothing. So that way it's all done by hand, and then so that way you know it's good, so that way you can torque it all down. You can see I got the main girdle on there, but you see it's got a little gap right there, just when you set it down, which is not too hard. Just lightly tap it. Do that all the way over, just to make sure it's down and somewhat seated before you go tighten down on the bolts, so that way by chance it doesn't gall it up. And then now it should be tight enough to spin it by hand. So you can see the thrust washers. Just a little bit of a challenge. Once you pinch them, when you rotate the girdle around and drop it in there, they hold it pretty good. Alright, I got all the bearings in, the crank in, and the cradle in. And follow your torque sequence and torque specifications of the manual you're using. I haven't torqued them down yet, because I just got a wrench and put them all down so I can rotate it to make sure everything rotates cleanly without any effort other than just a normal rotating mass effort by hand. And now I'm going to come back and do the torque specifications. The one torque specifications in this one if you can see, for the V6 torque specs of the Haynes repair manual is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we'll come back with the process for that. Alright, on the torque sequence and the torque specs, the Haynes manual says to torque the bolts to 45 foot-pounds in the sequence as the first step, then sit and wait, and then on the second step is you tighten the bolt, basically just do a complete 90, so basically mark the bolt or have the breaker bar and then know what a complete 90 is, so that way, and then that's the final sequence of the torque specs of the crank. Simple torque, torque wrench 45. Start with it, just I brace my knee right here, so that way you just go, click it, and go to the next one, and so on and so forth to get the first sequence done. As you can see, what I did is I put a little paint mark on all the main stud bolts, so that way I know a starting point and I can watch the bolt during the 90 for the last torque sequence. And basically all I'm using is just a big breaker bar with a 9/16 12 point, that's what these are, and then make sure the bolt turns the 90. So basically once you do the start on the sequence, which I'm going to get over there, and turn it, and then once it's 90'd, and that means that bolt's done. That was a task, just holding the engine stand and pulling the big breaker bar to turn them 90. As you can see, all of them are turned 90. And once you go through the sequence, like if you want to do the 1, 2, 3, 4, rotate the crank, turn it to make sure nothing's binding, everything is pretty well seated, all that stuff is just a good insurance policy just to check, because you don't want to have them all tight and then realize it's stuck, what's going on, so that way you can hone it in. And then so you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you rotate it again. You do the one rotation here, and once you get these, do the second once you get the rear and the front main cap tight. And then once you know it spins freely by hand, you got them all 90 and torqued up, the bottom end's buttoned up and done. So basically now you can move on to putting the pistons in, which is going to be the next step in the process. And in my instance, basically I have to stop because I have to go do other things now. Is once I got the crank in, all that stuff's torqued, since I have to let it sit for at least another day or so, or long period of time, whatever you want to do, is I just grabbed some motor oil, rubbed it down in the cylinder walls, so that way it'll keep them from rusting, keep them lubricated. Oil on top of the deck, which all this oil can come off. All you gotta do is use brake clean, because it does not leave an oil residue, with a cloth, and wipe it all down, so when you're ready to put the gasket, you're ready to go. Same thing with the other side. All the parts that are open to the air so they won't rust, just oil them up, oil the bottom, and then once you put it back in the garage, you don't get no dirt, debris, or anything flying around on it. Just grab one of the trash bags in your house and wrap it with a trash bag. So that way it all neatened up, just in case something happens when it's in the garage. You never know. So that way you keep it all nice and neat, so that way your work doesn't go to nothing. And I'll come back with the next part of it when I put the pistons in, and then start adding to it. Thanks.